I light man, bring it down, bring it down, bring. Here's the light man. Listen, one of my comments brought up something that I forgot to say something about, and I need to say something about it. This is an important subject. If you live in Utah, or you're thinking of coming and living in Utah, if you've been born in the United States and you've had American history and the Constitution, you know that you're protected under certain laws of the United States. Not in Utah. Be careful. Not in Utah. The application of the law is key to the law. It doesn't matter if it says do not steal. Well, the Mormons steal tithing money from you. They don't obey that law either. In Utah, it is very, very hard to implement the letter and spirit of the law. The Mormons twist and turn it in such a way that the court system and the judicial process, including your rights to an attorney, you might as well just walk over to the prison and say, open up, I'm coming in. If you're not wearing garments and you go in front of a jury, you're stupid. You're just plain stupid. If you get pulled over by a traffic officer and you're not wearing garments, you're going to get a ticket. You're not getting a warning. You're not getting a warning in a million years. If you get pulled over and you're laughing, loud laughter and light-mindedness and having fun, you're going to get a ticket. They may go ahead and say, pull your boob out. Let me take a look at that too. As my other videos have said. My comment mentioned something that is totally true, and I know it by personal experience. If you go up against any state, city, or governmental agency, I don't care if it's Americans with Disability Act, I don't care if it's a soliciting law, I don't care if it's minor or major, you can't get an attorney. Fall off your chair. This is the United States of America. You can't get an attorney that is going to go against anybody or anything in this state. Oh, I mean in Australia. Day and night. I'm in Australia. I'm in Australia. I have had, I had a run-in with the, the school district at one time down here in Australia. And I went to look for an attorney, and they'll give you a free consultation, and they'll tell you, you're screwed. That's my consultation, and I'm not taking this case. I had a divorce issue with a change of venue, and the Mormon attorney said, no way, I'm not taking any divorce cases at all. And so if you come up against authorities, or you come up against the status quo in Utah, you're going to go pro bono. That's a legal term, meaning you're going to defend yourself. But for those of you that are not of legal background, it means like a broomstick up the rectum. That's going to be your rights in Utah. I'm telling you, juries. I had another run-in, now that I think about it. It wasn't me, it was my son. And I went to help to defend him, which in Utah, there's no defense. The judge and the prosecutor worked in the same law firm. Now, I asked for him to recuse himself, which means, get the hell out of the way. Give me a real judge that doesn't have an in with the prosecutor. And when you do that in Utah, they take it up to another judge. And the other judge goes, no, it's not a conflict of interest. So we had to try the case in front of a judge who was best friends with the prosecutor. They were in the same ward, in the same state together. They did church jobs. They went out on the golf course. Do you think we had a fair hearing or trial? Well, I'll tell you, we beat that one. And again, in Utah, you're not going to beat too many of them, but I have a certain degree of knowledge of the law. So what we did is we put in like 10 or 15 motions before the trial, and a set of interrogatories. Interrogatories are legal questions that you can, for discovery. Before a trial, you can put legal questions to people, like a deposition and or a list of questions, and ask them to respond. I think we're the only people in the world that have ever put in interrogatories to a judge. He went shitless. He went crazy on us. So then we put interrogatories into the prosecutor and called him unqualified, because we found that the kids were being served beer at his house a couple of months ago, and one of his kids ended up in juvenile hall, and he ended up with a reprimand from the laws of his county, that he was not watching his kids close enough and he was incompetent. Well, when that hits the record, that becomes a public record, and we knew that. And so they wouldn't answer the interrogatories. The judge says, "This is the most outrageous thing I've ever seen." And so anyway, he dismissed the interrogatories, which he's not allowed to do. But in Utah, who's going to stop him? Who's going to stop him? Well, the prosecutor did everything except jump up on the table and just dance like a wild Indian rain dance. And the judge said, "Would you sit down?" And then the judge said, "What do you want to do with this case?" And the prosecutor screamed, "Dismiss it! Dismiss it!" And my son and I were sitting there going, yeah, and they did. They dismissed it. So, you know, I had another... You would think I'm always in trouble, but I'm always trying to defend other people. I had a father-in-law who had the immigration problem of being here illegally. My sweet Argentine daughter-in-law had her father here, and oh God, he was probably one of the reasons we don't want illegal aliens in this country. She's a citizen. But anyway, he asked me to defend him in immigration court. And I read the statutes, and it said, yeah, you can have a lay person come in and represent you. You do not have to have an attorney. Well, we got into that court, and I was sitting there, the prosecutor's right there to my left, and my client's right there to my right. And the judge had never seen me. See, all the judges and all the attorneys basically came from BYU. So they knew each other. They were a class ahead or a class behind, or they served missions in the same places. Everybody is a cousin in the Mormon community. So I'm sitting there, and he looks at me, and I thought he was going to throw up, but he didn't. He looked at me and he said, "New Caribou, Sir David, the Bard, are you an attorney?" And I said, "No, sir. No, sir. I'm not an attorney, and I don't give legal advice, because I know in Utah, put your ass in jail if you pose as an attorney." And he says, "What the hell are you doing in this courtroom?" And I said, "Well, sir, I'm here to represent my client." I thought he was going to get up and dance on the F table again. So it's not the same judge. This is a different judge, a totally different court, and a totally different place in the Valley of Salt Lake, which is sometimes in Australia. Day and night, Australia. So he looks to the prosecutor, and it was a female, and he said to her, "What's going on here?" And she said, "Well, Your Honor, under the circumstances of the immigration court, an individual can represent. They don't have to be an attorney." And the judge looks at her and says, "Are you kidding?" He hadn't even read the book. He didn't know the procedure in his own courtroom. Now, I looked him up. He was a state president back in Virginia, and a returned missionary, and a BYU graduate. Had no damn idea that I was allowed there. And so then he tried to make it extra difficult. This is what I'm telling you. In Utah, you're not going to have a fair trial. You're going to be screwed. Get the broomstick and just bend over. So he said to me, "Are you familiar with Code 88, 44? "No, sir." "Well, I suggest you read that." I said, "I will, sir." "Before tomorrow." God, it's like 10,000 pages of immigration law. So he tells me to get the hell out of this courtroom with the client. Well, I go back to the office the next day, and I said, you know, I wanted to place a paper. I forget why I was there, but it was something legal. And I said, you know, you need to get the judge out of his courtroom, because I have something here I need to serve on him. I think we were doing more interrogatories. He came out of his courtroom, and, you know, I've seen mad state presidents, but not as mad as this one. He had the black robe on, and the baker's cap, and, you know, his hand to the square, and he had his thumb up here to cut my throat. He threw me out. Get the hell out of here. I couldn't do anything legally. Well, the next day, he deported my father-in-law to the Argentine country. So, I've had that experience here in Utah. So, I've had divorce attorneys say, we're not going to represent you. I've had immigration attorneys go, you're screwed. And judges that are state presidents, and they're not going to deal this. I've had conflict of interest, which there's no such thing in Utah. There's no conflict. If I've got garments and you got garments, you're guilty. So, you're not going to get an attorney in Utah that is going to defend you at all. It is very hard to even get an attorney in Utah for personal injury attorney. Mormons hate attorneys, and these are good attorneys that are on TV and advertising. They're reputable, and one of them came on the other day, and I was surprised because he's a little older, a little younger than I am, and he says, I feel bad that most of this state and its people hate me and think that I'm some kind of a blight on this society in the state of Utah. And the best way to put me out of business is for you insurance companies to pay the right amount of money and do it on time. Nobody would call me. I'd be out of business. And I thought, that's, you know, he's defending himself. He's had an entire law career here in Utah, and he probably regrets every minute of it. So, I've had 3 or 4 experiences. I did run into the no soliciting law. Now, this is fascinating in Utah. And the discrimination law. The discrimination law in Utah is exactly like every other discrimination in the world, statement of every state. No discrimination of gay people, country, creed, language, etc. It has one exception. Religion. Religion can legally discriminate in the state of Utah. Can you believe that? Well, you don't live here. And I'm in Australia now, so I'm just memory, you know. You cannot be free in the state of Utah. If the religion of the Mormons don't want you for some reason, that you're gay or you're black or you're a female feminist or whatever, not only are you excommunicated and shunned where you can't get a job usually, the law of the state of Utah allows for no discrimination except churches can discriminate. Well, you know what they mean when they say churches discriminate. So I've been in front of Utah judges, and I've certainly seen the prosecutors dance. And you know, to be in Utah, you have to be an unconventional attorney. You have to be an unconventional case. The only way I've ever won anything in Utah is being so crazy that they've never seen anything like it before, and rather than being humiliated, like the prosecutor whose kids went to jail for drinking for underage and partying at his house, he didn't want that to go public. He dismissed the case. So, be careful. When you come to Utah, yeah, there's laws in Utah, and yeah, there's constitutional law. I told you the other day I went to the school system with their dress code and told them, and I took in the Supreme Court statement on dress codes for the ruling of the Supreme Court of the United States of America when children go to school, what the requirements can be and what they can't be. And so when I presented it to the principal and I showed him the U.S. Supreme Court decision, he handed it back to me, and he said, we don't have to hold to the Supreme Court of the United States of America. And you can take it to court if you want, but we're going to win it. He was right. I couldn't afford to take it into a 4th or 3rd district court or whatever and take 7 months or a year to try it, and then they're going to throw it out and say, no, the girls' dresses can be exactly like the Mormon church dresses. We don't care what the Supreme Court says. Then I have to take it to the Utah Supreme Court. You think I'm going to get more justice there? Huh. I'm not going to get justice there. And so they're going to concur with the lower court. Well, now I got to go over to, I think it's the 9th district there in Colorado, and it has a Mormon on it, and he absorbs all of these cases that come from Utah. Do you think I'm going to get justice from that particular man? I got to go to the United States Supreme Court, like Roe versus Wade, and like the Civil Rights Act, etc., and get the hell away from the state of Utah and the appeals courts. I can't do that. And so when he smiled and said, you can take it to court, but we're going to win, welcome to Utah. Welcome to the school system. Welcome to immigration court. Welcome to divorce court. Welcome to the courts of Utah. You're not going to get an attorney. And if you try or do anything against the Mormon church, you will never get an attorney, because the Mormon church is perfect at shunning. They're better than the Quakers. And if you come up against the Mormon church, you're not going to find an attorney that's going to take your case, and you're just going to bow your head and say yes, and try to stay away from the Mormons. That's the way you're treated here. In Australia. Tell the Danites in Australia. Thanks.